All right, good. All right. Good evening, everyone. Tiffany Bargeman here. I am the CEO, founder, and visionary of Friendpreneurship, LLC. And I am here with our second Friendpreneur Fiyah podcast. And I'm excited because I have some friendpreneurs on the line who are going to share with us. But before we get into that, I want to just introduce to those who are new to the podcast, introduce to you what friendpreneurship is all about. Friendpreneurship is a business support service that builds community by connecting entrepreneurs through targeted networking and live storytelling events. We do this so that we can connect on a regular basis and learn from each other. Now, a friendpreneur is a friendly entrepreneur who isn't afraid to bring others along for success. So, when we think about friendpreneurship, there are core values: promote, support, and repeat. So, when it comes to entrepreneurs and visionaries, we make sure that we promote, support, and repeat on a regular basis so that we can grow and learn together. That's what friendpreneurship is all about. So, what we like to do on this podcast is bring on people who have visions, people who are operating in business or nonprofit, as in this case tonight, and talk about why we do what we do. Because people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. That's a Simon Sinek quote. I quote it every time because I truly believe that. When I have an experience, when I go to a place, when I taste great food, anything that has to do with an entrepreneur and the vision that they are manifesting, I want to tell someone all about it, which is why we're here tonight. We're going to talk to two ladies who are here from a nonprofit organization called Benevolence Farm. And this is a small nonprofit. I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm going to just peep at my notes. A small rural nonprofit for and by formerly incarcerated women. Kristen Powers is the executive director, and with us also is Emuna Evans, who has been involved with Benevolence Farm for some time, and I can't wait to hear about her experience. So I am going to bring them on stage, and for now, I'm going to make sure that you guys can still see the ticker because I want to make sure the questions that I ask them are available to you as well. So you can remember what we are talking about. Feel free to chime in. Okay, I'm going to bring on Kristen Powers and Emuna Evans. And add. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Greetings. Thank you for being here. Is it raining where you are? Because it's raining here. It's kind of spitting.
Yeah.
I remember, Emuna, you mentioned maybe sitting outside. That didn't play out, huh?
Well, I was outside yesterday. I went to a market and it was raining a little bit, but I've
Yeah,
been outside all day today. So
yeah.
I've been in the
You had
rain.
enough. Well, welcome to this podcast. I'm excited because I'm always trying to learn something new and find out where other visionaries' visions intersect with friendpreneurship. I'm always listening out for that place where we might be able to work together, collaborate on some things. So let me start out by saying how I came across this organization. So I was at a conference at the Raleigh Convention Center, downtown Raleigh, and this was not that long ago, the Women Lead 2023 conference that North Carolina Chamber sponsors. And I was there on behalf of my day job, but I'm always, keeping my radar open for opportunities to talk to entrepreneurs. So, Kristen, you weren't there when I got to your booth. Your intern was there. I don't remember her name, but I have to give her a shout out. So tell me what her name was because I want to give her props.
Martha.
She rocked it. When I walked up and I said, okay, tell me all about this. She had some products out and I said, okay, tell me all about the organization. She did the thing and she explained it so well. I thought, wow, I thought she was, in charge. But then she said, well, Kristen is the one you want to speak to. She's not here yet. And I thought, wow, well, you did a good job. And then you came along. So here we are today. And then you mentioned Emuna and that she'll have a great story to tell as well. So I'm excited that you all are here and willing to share with us. So while we are waiting for people to join, if people join, great. If they don't, we'll have a recording, we'll have a replay. And I want to ask you guys just to give us some background on your why. Before we even talk about Benevolence Farm, let's talk about why you do what you do, because that's going to give us a good segue into your involvement with the organization. So, Kristen, you want to start there?
Sure. So I think my why starts probably further back when I was young, when my mom was dealing with Huntington's disease, which is a neurological brain disorder that causes one to lose the ability to walk, talk, think, and reason. And it's a hereditary disease. So I grew up knowing myself and my brothers may also inherit this disease. And I think it really stuck with me the way our community kind of failed to wrap around and support, and in fact kind of made our lives harder for someone who looked different and acted different than everyone around them. And it kind of just stuck with me about how much easier that experience could have been if we could rely on our neighbors or be in community with people who were not so quick to call the police on us or to call Child Protective Services without inquiring or making an effort. So I think that's always really stuck with me as to why community is so central to what I do, because I think unfortunately we've over the years gone away from being in community with one another. We may live in a neighborhood but not know who our neighbors are. And so I think also for me, as someone who lost both my parents when I was before I turned 23, I was also just struck by like how isolating that experience is, and how there was nothing we could do about it. They both died of brain disorders. And so it just kind of fueled like if there are other problems that we could prevent this type of pain and suffering, that I wanted to be a part of that. So I think that drives me, and just to see what we can accomplish in community is the positive flip side of that too.
Yeah, I love that. And we're going to talk about community for sure. I heard all of what you said, and we haven't even talked about Benevolence Farm. I like that because the backwards approach, or kind of like reading the last page of a book before you go backwards, or even like the Netflix movies these days, a lot of them, the series, they start with what's in the very end, and then they go backwards to tell you the whole story. That's what we're going to do today, because I think knowing that why is so important. And when you mention community and what you had to go through and learn before you even got involved with Benevolence Farm, that resonates with me, because when it comes to friendpreneurship, building this business, it was an evolution of things. I started with one idea in mind for how I was going to manage business, but it evolved into friendpreneurship after I went through a few things that taught me some things. So I think friendpreneurship is on the right path now because of that experience. It wouldn't have been birthed without that experience. So yeah. What about you, Imuna? What brought you to be involved with Benevolence Farm?
Well, I was incarcerated for 4.5 years, and during the time of my incarceration,
That's fine. We're going with the flow. Got some background people. That's okay.
I'm sorry, I have a
That's
pup,
fine.
and I thought it would be best to let him out because I didn't want him barking while we were doing the actual podcast.
That's fine.
So he got into something he shouldn't have.
Uh-oh.
So he might be barking for a little bit because he has to
It's
go.
fine.
So I just got new to the puppy mom thing. So
Yeah.
But my why started, I guess just as like a dreamer as a child. I grew up with a single mother, and I just remember like listening to stories like from my mom and like my grandparents about how like what community was to them, like how they lived on a block where everybody was involved with like the kids, the children. My mom used to make jokes about like, you know, when one of them got in trouble, like they got in trouble by the whole block and things like that. So I don't know, it kind of made me, my mom said that they always felt like safe on the neighborhood where they were from. And then also just hearing those stories about like how everyone on the block supported each other, and you know, when one person was going through hardships, how it wasn't even something that they had to think about, that neighbors stepped in to help and support. So as I got into adulthood, that was something I kind of longed for. And when I ended up getting incarcerated myself, and I came to this program, Benevolence Farm, and they pretty much gave me that support immediately. That was something I wanted to embrace, and then also that was something that I wanted to offer to other individuals. So that's pretty much how my why started.
Okay, and we're going to talk about how your involvement has evolved since you got started. As people are joining, I'm just going to go a little into detail about nonprofits. You know that nonprofits are fully focused on improving the social aspect of their community, and money is not the focus. It's about the community support. However, a nonprofit operates very much like a business, and we have not excluded them from friendpreneurship because when it comes to running a business, there are so many things that we have to do administratively. We need to rely on others to help, because when you're a visionary, you know what your vision is, right? You can see it from start to finish sometimes, and you're only one person, so you have to get the help to actually operate. You can't do it alone. If you can, I need you to bottle that up and put it in the store. I will pay for it. I cannot myself do it all. So when you have built a team and you're garnering support from even outside of your team, things are better. I'm learning that, and I'd like to hear your experience with that as well. But first, I want to say we welcome nonprofits to friendpreneurship, because the common denominator between nonprofits and friendpreneurship is support. Like I said, the core values are promote, support, and repeat. And since support is what you guys do on a daily basis, you are definitely friendpreneurs. So I want to hear from you a little bit about how things go at Benevolence Farm. But first, tell us about Benevolence Farm, what it is, and about the locations and whatnot, and who the farm serves. And either of you can do this.
I can start, Mona, if you want to add anything. So we were started in 2007 by a social worker named Tanya Gisa, who was seeing this trend of the rate of women's incarceration rising nationwide. The estimate is 700% since the inception of the war on drugs. And for women coming home with that massive increase, there just wasn't any reentry services tailored to the unique needs of women, of mothers, of family members affected by women's incarceration. And so that is where Benevolence Farm came from, and what it has looked like in practice is providing housing and employment and wraparound services to formerly incarcerated women across North Carolina, of all conviction types, and of all lengths of incarceration, which was two important things about our founding. And so today what that looks like is 2 houses in Alamance County, accepting women from all over the state of North Carolina, to provide that immediate housing and employment through our social enterprise, which is a body care and candle line infused with herbs and flowers we grow on the farm. And then we also have wraparound support, again, kind of harking back to that community, both emotional and logistical support for that tough reentry experience, as well as advocacy to make the road easier for future people coming home as well. So that's a quick overview. Mona, is there anything I missed there?
No, you killed it.
Okay, well, tell me about how people are eligible, because that's going to help us understand how Imuna arrived.
Yeah, so anyone who's when we started, it was really any woman in a North Carolina prison, or for women in federal prison. There are no North Carolina federal prisons for women, so you just basically your intention has to be roots coming back to North Carolina, where you want to settle. And so again, anyone of any conviction type. That will just distinguish too that jail is usually considered pretrial, and prison is usually a felony conviction of at least with a sentence of 6 months up to a lifetime. And so we did open up last year to women who were experiencing pretrial detention in the local jail. But for the purpose of the program from its inception, it was also just to support women coming home from prison. And so that's who we serve across the state, and they can stay up for 2 years. Most people stay during their length of probation or parole to just get back on their feet and hopefully find housing and employment in a community of their choice.
Mm-hmm. So how does it work? How do you identify who you're going to offer the assistance to, and how do you even get into the system so that you can talk to the right people?
Yeah, well, at this point, it's this month, actually in 3 days, will be our 7th anniversary of the first resident coming home. So at this point, there's about 3 primary prisons for women, and then a few smaller prisons as well. So it's pretty, unfortunately, there's not a lot of reentry programs. So incarcerated folks know kind of all the names of the reentry programs available. So a lot of it is our alumni recommending people they may have left behind while incarcerated. They can get them applications. Case managers in prisons can get applications. Sometimes family members will call on their loved one's behalf and help and try to get an app. And so they apply. And then really the phone interview is just based on, one, do we have enough space? Because we only unfortunately have 10 permanent beds right now. And then is this a right fit for you? Because, and that's important because we are, and I know this was something Mona felt tension with, like we are a farm and we're in Alamance County and we're rural. And so, we don't want to mislead anyone to like imagine something we're not. And so that's just part of the kind of matchmaking experience. So anyone can apply. The biggest restrictions are availability and timing. And then just making sure that people feel like this is what they need when coming home.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good segue to Imuna, because I want to know how you learned about the program and what the experience was like hearing that there was such, and then applying and then getting a notice. I just want to hear your story from start to finish, if you would like.
Yeah, so you want to know all the dirty details.
I want to know whatever you're willing to share, because, when people understand the story, especially at this time of year. And I'll throw this in because at this time of year, people are feeling generous, right? But there is a sustainability question that we want to talk about later as well. When people know the story behind something, they're more likely to support. So I just want to hear what you're willing to share. For sure.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so like I said, I was doing 4 years in the North Carolina State Prison. Kind of like what Kristen was saying, I did most of my time in county jail. So I really didn't do a lot of time in the prison system. I did maybe about 2 years of my sentence there. Typically around about 6 months is when you really start focusing on reentry, 6 months before your release day. And I did not have any family here in North Carolina. My family is from Michigan. It was a part of my parole stipulations for me to remain in North Carolina until I was finished with my parole. So I applied to various reentry programs. I looked for various different reentry programs, but they didn't offer what Kristen was kind of talking about was a fit. Well, that's what I was looking for, something that will fit me also. I needed immediate housing and I needed employment. A lot of the programs that I was applying to, they will offer one or the other, or it was like a time frame as far as employment or housing, meaning like they might offer 90 days of housing, but you had to try to find employment like immediately. As soon as you got there was a lot of stipulations revolving around that. Some of the programs was rather strict as far as you couldn't talk to family for the first 3 or 4 months, or you couldn't have a cell phone, a lot of restrictions. And then some of them was more so substance abuse based for an individual that didn't have substance abuse issues. I didn't need, pretty much, I wouldn't say waste my time, but I didn't need AA and things like that. I just needed the housing and employment aspect of it. So my partner, who was incarcerated with me at the time, she reached out to her case manager and they ended up finding me Benevolence Farm through her mom, who is a teacher. Actually, she's a substitute teacher, and she heard them. I wasn't sure if it was on the news or it was some type of streamline that Benevolence Farm had did, and she heard about them. So she was like, hey, it's this program. I don't know too much about them. I just know that they offer housing and employment, but it's on the farm. When I heard the name Benevolence Farming and I found out they were on the farm, I'm going to be really honest with you. I let the application sit on my desk for about a month and a half because being from Michigan and I grew up in Detroit all my life, the farm aspect scared me. It scared me. I'm not gonna say a little bit. It scared me a lot. I did not see myself going to go, milk cows because that's what you think of when you think of a farm. I'm like, I don't want to milk cows. I don't want to, is it gonna be chickens there? Like, what am I getting myself into? But the more programs I kept applying for some reason, Benevolence Farm kept popping up for me. So I finally decided to apply. And when I did, I immediately got a response back. They set up an interview. Thank God during the interview, I found out I was not going to be milking cows, that I was actually going to be making candles and body care products, which I thought was really awesome and cool because I came from a background where I had a grandmother who had like all these candle supplies in her basement, but for some reason she never really did nothing with them. But candles has always been like a big part of like my family. Everyone loved candles. I enjoy candles. So I'm like, okay, that's really neat that I can do candles. And also I started asking questions, I think immediately during the interview, like, hey, can I have a cell phone? They're like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, okay, well, how many clothes can I have? A lot of things that people take for granted. A lot of the reentry programs I was applying for, also there were stipulations on like how many clothing items that you can bring and things like that. I remember one of the staff members was just telling me, like, I don't know if she was kind of thrown off about the question about the clothes, but she was like, we really don't care as long as you don't like fill up the whole house with. So I was excited about that. So I got picked up. I came to the farm. I immediately started working the next day, I believe. And it was just a wonderful experience being incarcerated for 4 years, not being surrounded by trees. I come to this 13 acres farm and I came in May. So everything was like in full bloom. The garden was in full bloom. The house looked beautiful. And it's like we have this huge trail around the farm also, and we did have chickens. So we do.
I was about to say, what animals are there?
Yeah.
There are no cows to milk.
We did have chickens. I was really scared to go in the chicken coop for a few days, but everybody worked with me and and to this day, I still did not eat the chicken eggs until recently, but that's a learning curve for me. But I was just excited for the opportunity. I remember the first night I met Kristen. She gave me a cell phone, and while I was incarcerated, phone calls are very, very expensive. So it kind of stopped the communication that I had with my family. I wasn't able to communicate as much. Like I went from seeing my kids every day and being able to talk to them when I want, and then when I went incarcerated, it was more so like I had to call home once a week to sustain in prison and make sure I sustained that financial stability while I was in there. And so when I got the cell phone, I was excited about that, to be able to just stay on the phone with my kids and just talk and then not have to hear that voice at the end. You have 60 seconds left and then the call cuts off after 15 minutes. So that was just a wonderful experience for me. And then, like I said, the support. That was something I wasn't used to. And then always having someone around me asking me, what do I want? What do I need? What do you want to do? After being incarcerated, you get conditioned to just being told what to do. So just having that freedom to get up in the morning. Do I want to go outside? Do I want to go see the trees? Do I want to go walk around the garden? That was just a very amazing experience with me. But that's pretty much how I got involved with Benevolence Farm.
So how long do you think it took? What was that?
I said as a resident, I'm sorry.
Okay. How long do you think it took you to acclimate, to actually know that, okay, when I wake up today, I'm going to be supported and not bossed around, or I can talk to my kids for a while and not have to worry about being cut off, or I can take a walk in the garden. How long did it take for you to know that it was okay?
I would say immediately they started building that trust with me. After the first interview of acceptance, they immediately started reaching out. So how the interview process goes, once you get accepted to the program, you communicate with staff like basically throughout until you're basically transitioned, to the farm. So like they already started like building that trust with me while I was already incarcerated by just asking me like what are your hobbies, what do you like to do, what's your favorite color, what's your favorite foods, and things like that. So once I actually came to the farm, like they had all of those things. I told them that I used to journal when I was incarcerated. They had journals for me. I told them I picked up crocheting as a hobby. They had yarn, lots of crochet hooks. So that right there immediately made me feel comfortable because it showed me that they not only listened, but they cared about things that I wanted. When a staff member picked me up, I remember in an interview, I was expressing to her how, God, I haven't had a Sprite in so long. That's my favorite soda, and like some Lay's potato chips. And when she picked me up, that's what she gave me was a Sprite and a bag of potato chips. So it was like basically I feel that they take into consideration as who individuals are as an individual and as a person, and then they take that time out to they understand that people have boundaries and people has been through trauma, but they take that effort and that time to allow you to trust them by just, they don't force it on you. They develop that relationship by just doing little things like that.
Yeah. And that makes the connection meaningful. I'm big on meaningful connections. It's not a bad thing to have a small organization. Kristen, you mentioned you have 2 homes and 10 beds. That's small, but it makes for a more intimate setting where you can truly connect on a level that wouldn't be possible if the organization were huge and the house was humongous and hundreds of women were in there. The relationships are what matter, and that's important, I think. Why do you say Imuna is the best choice for this conversation tonight? Because I'm going to come back to you, Imuna, and I want to ask you about a day in the life on that farm. But first, Kristen, just tell us why you've asked Imuna to join us today.
Yeah, so I call Imuna Mona, but Mona is I think just a great example of someone who really came in to Benevolence Farm open and ready to go and had pretty clear goals in sight, and I think is an excellent storyteller. I'm not someone who's formally incarcerated. I've had a loved one incarcerated, but at Benevolence Farm, we also think it's important to share the diversity of stories when it comes to incarceration. So just because you've heard Mona's story doesn't mean you know the full scope of incarceration and what folks experience, but it sure is like a very clear one as to why reentry as is does not work, how the stigma really hurts people and families. And Mona's been out for a year and a half, I think, because May 2022. So it's just super cool to be part of Mona's journey and seeing all she's doing. And now she's, I know she phrases it as I hired her onto staff, but she really came in with an idea of how to better support formerly incarcerated parents and families affected by incarceration. And that's what our long-term goal is at Benevolence Farm, to continue to center people with the direct experience. There's a saying in our line of work, the people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. So it is our hope that as we continue building this community, that our leadership will be filled with more and more people like Mona.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to ask you this, Mona. I want to say Mona now, but I really like Imuna. So Imuna, a day in the life on the farm. Talk about that, and then just kind of move into the idea that you brought to Kristen concerning how to better serve families. Okay. What's it like when you wake up in the morning? Do you hear chickens?
So
do you hear rooster?
Yeah, so actually the chickens are first on the list. Everyone, we have a schedule, so every day someone different is doing the chickens. Usually The only male that's on the farm is Mr. Hawkins. I had the privilege of having the bedroom right by the chicken coop. So he was
Okay.
rather loud about 6 a.m. ish. But pretty much you get up, you start your day, and then you go out, feed the chickens, give them water. If there's any eggs, you pick up the eggs. The eggs are, we don't sell the eggs. We use the eggs for the residents. So we bring them into the house. The residents can use them for cooking or whatever they choose to use them with. Our enterprise, which where our workshop where we make our body care products and candles and things, is right in the basement. So right after you get yourself ready for the day, usually in the summertime we start the workday at 8 a.m. because it's so hot. And the first thing after the chicken coop, we usually go outside first and we start either harvesting, weeding, doing the upkeep of the garden. As Kristen expressed, we have a 13-acre farm. So on the farm, we grow like a lot of lavender, chamomile, and things like that we use to infuse and put into our products. So just the upkeep of those things will be the first thing we do. And then after that, we fill orders, which people can access online at www.benevolencefarm.org. That's where the platform where we sell our products. So we do our orders first, make sure all of that is taken care of. And then pretty much what we go through inventory. So whatever products like we're low on, so we might make some candles that day or soap or things like that. But that's pretty much how a typical work day goes. And then we end the work day in the summertime at 4 o'clock. We have like a closing meeting, of the day, and just making sure that everyone's in a good space after work. And then after that, usually residents, they either go outside, they might go get something to eat, they go upstairs, take a nap, read, whatever they choose to do. We do work at the farm location 3 days a week. So it's Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The residents have Tuesdays and Thursdays off.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So in the
I'm thinking I need a vacation and shoot. Why not come feed chickens and walk in the garden and pour candles and make soap?
Absolutely. So it's very common. It's a very easy job, a very good atmosphere. If you ever come to our workshop, you might hear a lot of laughs. We have different personalities in the workshop, so it's always good vibes. But that's pretty much a typical day at Benevolence Farm.
Can I come visit?
Absolutely.
I do need to visit.
It smells
Well,
great down here too.
I am sure. Okay, so you mentioned chamomile, lavender. You grow the flowers on the property. Is there anything else you grow, like any food, or is it just strictly flowers for the property?
The residents, we have a community garden. Depending on what residents come, they get to choose on like what foods they want to grow. I remember when I was there as a resident, I was obsessed with cucumbers. So I wanted to grow cucumbers. But different residents come in, they might like different flowers, so we plant those. It's pretty much based off of the residents that's in the house, but all the food is used to support residents because SNAP benefits. A lot of our residents do not qualify for SNAP benefits because of various charges. Drug charges will be one. Because of that, they're not allowed to get SNAP benefits. I do believe that North Carolina has a partial ban, right, Kristen? So we supplement that. We give our residents what they will receive from SNAP with the Walmart or Food Line gift card. So when we give them the opportunity, to learn how to grow their own food and things like that.
Yeah, and that's huge right now. Gardening, personal gardens, I tried it. I didn't do well. I didn't do well with that, but so many people are growing food in their own yards now. I don't hear much about flowers, but I also know people are pouring candles. It's a lucrative business. I burn candles. I'm not one that puts it on the shelf and lets it collect dust. I burn candles. So I'm a consumer, and I do want to purchase some candles from you guys. So I'm going to come and I'm going to purchase candles. I truly believe in support food. So the ideas that you brought to Kristen concerning how to better serve the families, how did that come about?
Well, before incarceration, I was a mother. I'm a mother, but that's something I struggle with, was being separated from my children. Their process was very traumatic for me and also my kids and my family. And when I came to Benevolence Farm, like Kristen was explaining, I pretty much had a goal, and my goal was to reunite with my children as fast as possible. So I didn't stay in the program for as long as I wanted to because of that fact that I had to reunite with my children. And one thing that I experienced a lot of was like the discrimination as far as finding housing, finding employment, and then also not having that support system around me once I actually got my kids back. A lot of people do not realize how hard it is reuniting with your children or your family members or trying to build those bonds back after incarceration, especially when both parties have experienced a lot of trauma. So we make this joke about Kristen a lot. I'm sure she's probably tired of hearing it, but she has this expression on her face. We all come to her with these ideas and we vent to her about things and she just listens, but she doesn't say anything. So I remember numerous conversations of just being vulnerable and expressing these things to her about me not having that support once I finally got my son back in my care. I tried to like the whole PTA mom thing. I try to involve myself in like different, support in the community, but I felt that I was always being stigmatized because of my incarceration. So I kept trying to figure out like what could I do to not only help myself but also help other people not experience this feeling of isolation or like, of not having people around them. And that's how Bonding Families was born. Bonding Families is a support group that's residing in Alamance County. We support families that are infected by the criminal legal system. We offer emotional support, in-person gatherings, access to resources, a chance for these women to build community and still have that. They all share what we all have in common is lived experiences. I'm a big fan of women supporting women. And thanks to Benevolence Farm now, also we didn't added the housing fund into that aspect where we are housing women in the communities of their choice. The housing fund is paying security deposits when women found their housing, which is very imperative because when you're going through the whole housing search, you're going through a lot of your funding just trying to get into housing. And then also a lot of people are just having enough just to move in. They're not prepared for like the extra security deposits. They're not prepared for the furniture after, the furniture after that, or paying for the deposits to get their lights turned on and things like that. So that's why the housing fund is very important to me. So that's pretty much the idea I took to Kristen, and she gave me the title of the Family Reunification Advocate, in which I can say I did not have a clue what that meant. I remember when she gave me the job title, I started Googling it because I'm like, what do that? Like, what? Family Reunification Advocate? Like, what do I supposed to do? Like, where do I start? I was lost, like, pretty much.
Well, Kirsten saw something when she was listening to your idea, and as things have come to fruition, there's a connection that you have through your experience, your lived experience, that brought this idea to you. And when you have a lived experience, just like Kristen mentioned at the top, with her own family, it puts something in you. It gives you your why, and that why comes out in your service. And I think that's beautiful. What was the name? You said the
Bonding Families.
Bonding Families?
Yes.
Okay. The Family Reunification. What was that title you gave her, Kristen?
Advocate.
Okay, I'm putting that up here because I like that. Okay. Now, Kristen, you have support within your organization, people like Imuna, right, who've had the lived experience, who can contribute in some way. What about your external partners? And when you're working to help people find housing outside of your organization, how do you partner with others, and how do you identify what partners can help you with these ladies after they've gotten the help that they need from you?
Yeah. I like the Queen Amuna family. That's okay. See that on the ticker. So the finding external partners, some of them naturally exist like a nonprofit, like ourselves in the community. And so it can often be the only chance or choice for a lot of our folks. So naturally that partnership comes about, and we want to make sure that nonprofit or service is elevated and doing as well as it can, helping the most people it can, because that will support the folks that we work with as well. And so it's mutually beneficial for our community to have those services. In some ways, we're paving a little bit of a path in rural North Carolina, because unfortunately a lot of people don't return to rural because these services or nonprofits or partners don't exist. So in some ways we're trying to build as we go and amplify folks who are willing to try to start something or build out those projects or do mutual aid efforts. And a lot of it too, in rural North Carolina, faith institutions are really important. Alamance County alone has 400 churches. So there's a lot of people who we are value aligned with that are in the faith community of all different denominations. And so they will, even though they're not direct service providers per se, they'll support. And then since our social enterprise launched in December 2018, there's been a lot of creative interactions we've done, like with Hand Pottery in Burlington, North Carolina, which is a famous pottery company that does really high-end work. And that came out of just one individual donating vessels to us that they couldn't use anymore. And that has turned now into a multi-year partnership where we support one another too at that local business level.
Awesome. And when you say multi-year, I hear repeat in there. So promote, support, repeat. I think these meaningful connections that are made are so important because sustainability matters, right? So if you are establishing partnerships outside, you might have a great experience, everything goes well, but then there's got to be a way to maintain that relationship so that there's repeat support, right? How do you, and I want to make sure I ask this question well, because sustainability is key when it comes to, especially to nonprofits, not only entrepreneurs who are in their business for profit, but nonprofits depend on the community support. So just stand by here because I want to make sure I get this question in. Stand by. Okay, so according to the National Council of Nonprofits, a nonprofit financial sustainability plan allows a nonprofit to sustain itself over the long term so it's able to continue to support its mission, right? So what is the plan for Benevolence Farms sustainability? Outside of the current partners you have, how do you identify new ones? And do you have a plan or roadmap for 2024 and beyond to sustain Benevolence Farm?
Well, I, as a director, have had quite the experience because I came on in January 2020. And so I think any nonprofit or business's sustainability plan got totally thrown into the wind in 2020 and even the years following. I mean, for us, it was hard to do the traditional sustainability planning when one year we were getting record unprecedented donations, body care purchases, partnership support, and then in 2022 having almost all of that disappear. And so a lot of it has just also come down to multi-year, that repeat relationship building. And I think this role has taught me a lot of patience, and just to know that relationship building is patience, because I think even with our history too, Benevolence Farm had a tumultuous first few years and financially was not sustainable and was really struggling. I think a lot of people lost a little bit of faith in whether this little experiment was possible. And so I think also buoying trust through relationship building and demonstrating growth in itself has enabled more growth and kind of compounded over time. And as we've grown and stabilized and gotten more successful, that's allowed us, I think, almost to hit like a flywheel where then we're able to find more partners and to, even for Mona, like having Mona on the team and going to NCA&T's homecoming and saying, why aren't we here tabling? Like, we need to get out into this community and sell our candles. And, we've had other residents who are like, well, I always buy my things from this place. Like, have we ever talked about getting our sample boxes in here? And so tapping into those connections from different diverse backgrounds, I think will also be key. And in 2024, part of that sustainability for us was starting the social enterprise as a rural nonprofit that doesn't have a county with a ton of foundations or a ton of money flowing to it in the same way maybe some urban areas do. We had to get creative, and that social enterprise allows us to pay the women that we employ as part of this. And we do employ with living wages, and when we started, that was definitely a bit of a risk financially, and we offset it with a nonprofit. But I think in 2024, we'll be able to fully fund then. And actually this year, we might even hit that in the next 2 weeks, the point at which the sales will finally cover the full $15 an hour wage. And then our hope is to continue. But I mean, doing podcasts like these, opportunities to story share, again, we're small and we know what we're doing internally, but sometimes we don't, haven't always had the space or platform to share, and like Mona to share her story. And so we're appreciating this too.
I'm so glad to hear it. I'm so glad to hear it. The stories matter so much to me. When I was young, I wanted to be a journalist, and I went on an internship at the Charlotte Observer, but I was assigned to the news desk. The news desk and the features desk are very different. News, you go to the courthouse, you find out what's going on, you come back, you report it, it's in the news the next day, blah, 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 right? The features writers had the best jobs, I thought, because they got to talk with people, they got to take their time and draw that story out, find those meaningful connections. And that, to me, was what I wanted to do. So I didn't get that experience as a college student, but it's happening now. And that feels amazing. And to know that the story you're telling matters to you, that matters to me. So thank you again for being here. Okay, I got thrown a little bit by that. Just give me a second. Got to regroup, because things come full circle. My why is I need people to have the information that they need so that they can make the best decisions for themselves. And when people know why Benevolence Farm does what it does, they can decide, okay, this year I'm going to use the funds that I've set aside for donations for Benevolence Farm. And maybe not just during the holiday season, maybe over time throughout the year, I can continue to support this organization. Maybe I can go visit the farm, get a deeper connection, to the ladies that are there, to the chickens, to the garden, the experience overall. So I'm glad to be able to help share this story. I want to go to an article that a friendpreneur of mine shared, and it is about nonprofits. And hold on just a second. Let me go back to my note. All right. Beating holiday stress in the nonprofit sector. So I like the article that McKeel Shaw wrote in his MSI, or Michael Shaw Inc. Brand Solutions newsletter. When he talks about nonprofits, which he does often, he often has a live stream about nonprofit cheat codes. And this particular one is Beating Holiday Stress in the Nonprofit Sector, a guide for small organizations. He talks about understanding what the stresses are for small nonprofits. And also those include financial strains and emotional toll, operational challenges. But he also offers some suggestions for managing the challenges, like prioritizing self-care, setting realistic goals, fostering a supportive team environment, which it sounds to me that you have, delegating and empowering those who are on the team to make decisions, and, build a stronger, more engaged team, practicing gratitude, planning for downtime, and talking about why mental health matters. I think it's so important to, step back sometimes and consider those things. How do you all, when you're working and it doesn't sound like work, but when you're doing the things that Benevolence Farm does to produce so that you can sustain. When you're doing those things along with the administrative tasks, how do you maintain a balance so that mental health is top of mind as well? And also making sure that you're getting what you need from the community, from the internal residents and whatnot. How do you maintain a balance there?
Do you want me to start, Mona, or do you want to start?
You can start first.
Okay. Well, and I think for us, we, as a nonprofit, we embrace a lot of this movement towards, time off and time to breathe, because this is really hard emotional work. It can be challenging because, like, even in the summer, like, we can't really, you can't even step away from the farm for that long if you want your plants to survive. And so we've kind of created, as a team, we actually made a decision. There's a lot of nonprofits that may take off like the last week of the year, last 2 weeks. And for us, we've decided in January's we're not going to work on Fridays. And so we're going to take that time. So I think staff is looking forward to that. That was something we came up with together because we know we have to be more on in the season because we're not only doing nonprofit year-end fundraising where sometimes 25% of our budget comes in just the month of December. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of storytelling in December that we had to prep. And then the body care sales, which Mona and our colleague Brett are really taking on, and all the holiday markets that Mona and Brett were at yesterday and the next few weeks. And then on top of that too, and we made a post about this recently, the emotional toll for formerly incarcerated people too coming home. One of our folks put it that she did 7 years and she said it never really felt like the holidays in prison. And so she was relearning how to celebrate. And so that's another layer. And so it is, I think, and maybe Mona has more thoughts on this too, but I think that because of the community we have, it is a little bit easier to navigate and has gotten better, I think, each year as we learn how to better support one another. But it's definitely taxing. I mean, we try to communicate like this is a tough time of year. And so we, throughout the year, try to adjust our schedules and calendars to recognize that some of it's inevitable in Q4 every year, but we can make modifications so that we aren't burnt out or we aren't overwhelmed or harming mental health. So I don't know, Mona, if you have any other perspective on the mental health side too.
Yeah, I would just say, self-care is important. And one thing I think that we do a great job about is communicating with each other as a team. I think we all realize that we can't support our residents or even support ourselves if we're not mentally stable ourselves. So I think that, life happens sometimes. I feel like, everybody have a day sometimes where they're just kind of like, I'm not here today. I kind of need a day off. And that's something I really appreciate about the staff here because we're always there to kind of pick up each other's slack. It's very easy in this space to communicate with one another and just be like, hey, I'm not having the best of day today. I think I need to stay at home and just kind of get my mentals in check, which I think is very important when you're working with the team. And then also kind of like Kristen is saying, I think we all still realize we do have a job to do. So just realizing like December is one of our busiest months. I think a lot of us are looking forward to like January to kind of have that downtime. I know me personally, I am more mimosas on Fridays. So it's looking forward to it. But yeah, I think communication is the biggest thing, is the biggest key, especially when it comes to mental health, is just being okay to let people know that you're not okay is what's important.
And being vulnerable enough to admit that to yourself and then share it is no small feat. So yeah, it matters. And again, that small community that you guys have, I'm sure helps in that area because you have a tight-knit community there. All right. Now, you mentioned Home for the Holidays, and I had a chance to look at your newsletter. There's so many wonderful things going on. I want to give you the last few minutes of this time to talk about Home for the Holidays, talk about the initiatives that you have going on now in this latter part of the year, as well as some plans that you have for 2024.
Mona, I think that's you for the Housing First work you've been doing.
So I'm really excited about the Housing First program. Like I said before, it's been very impactful, and not only that, but it's been very meaningful work. I realized a lot of people were struggling with housing. Me myself was struggling with finding housing, struggling with coming up with security deposits and just maintaining the housing. And just by having the housing fund is in place is something that's very, very important. And then also another thing I realized was um, a lot of families having to choose between reentry programs and then or choosing their families. It's been a very big issue, and so just having the housing fund for that is amazing, just for people to know, like, okay, maybe the reentry program side is not an option for you, but we do have this option that can support you. And I think that's our main goal, is to kind of figure out different avenues on how to support different individuals as best that we can. So 2024, I'm really looking excited. I'm really excited about placing more women into housing. Not only do we provide housing, but we're partnering and building relationships with like our furniture ministries all over the Triad, which is very important when people actually find a home. I know you guys probably seen these TikTok memes that's been going on when people are moving into empty houses and they're like, a win is a win. It is a win. Yeah, so it's a little thing that's been trending lately when people are basically saying, because of the restraints of the financial stability that's going on in the economy now, people are only having the means to move into a home, but they don't have the means to furnish the home or, to create that home space. And so just giving people that option. If you don't have furniture, let us help you furnish your homes. And I just did a tour of one of our housing recipients, and the first time we went with her on the first day that she got a key to her home, and the house was empty. Yeah, so
on page, yes.
It was empty, and she was just excited about being in a home. She didn't care. It wasn't a bed. It was no furniture in the home, not a cup to drink out of. She was just excited about the fact that she had a roof over her head to provide for her family. And recently, I just went back. I will be posting that soon. I'm working on, the edits of the video and things like that. But recently, I just went back and did a tour through her home, and she has really made it a home. So that's very important and fulfilling for me to see how individuals are really being impacted by this. And then I'm just excited about like continuing working with Benevolence Farm and being able to support more individuals also.
The impact. It's all about that impact. Yes. Now, I can imagine walking into her home and smelling a Benevolence Farm candle.
I gave her a gift bundle. So I told her she has this beautiful fireplace that I'm totally obsessed with. And I just pretty much told her, like, you need the candle on top of the fireplace.
Absolutely. That's a cherry on top. Yes. Okay. Kristen, we'll wrap up. Well, we didn't talk about home for the holidays. Did you want to talk about that, Mona?
Yeah, sure. So at Benevolence Farm, we give the residents an option to, if they want to go home with their families or if they want to remain at the farm, do they want to have a party and things like that. So we have a few residents that will be remaining at the farm. So as a staff and like the residents, we're going to have a holiday party. We do Secret Santa. The resident staffs, interns, we all participate in the Secret Santa, which is really fun. I've been elected to make macaroni and cheese from the residents.
It's good though. It's good. That's the question.
That's the thing. They love my macaroni and cheese, so I had to make the macaroni and cheese. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. And then also, like I said, this is also me also being formerly incarcerated. This will be my second Christmas. I am in a more stable place this time also. So I'm really excited about, my sister's coming down or her kids, my children to be here. My spouse was incarcerated last year, so we didn't get the chance to spend Christmas together. So this year she's home for that we can celebrate together also. So yeah, I'm really excited about the holidays.
So everybody's coming to the farm.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a Christmas party at the farm, and then I'm gonna have like at home myself. I'm gonna have some individual with my family also. And I can't wrap gifts. So
But you can make mac and cheese. That's all.
The staff has volunteered to come over and help me wrap my kids' gift, which is going to be fun. Because I cannot wrap, and I'm still trying to get my tree up, which I'm having a hard time with too.
Do what you can do, sis. Do what you can do. I'm glad that you'll have your family with you over the holiday. So, Kristen, tell me, when it comes to your 2024 roadmap, how do you see it? Let's see, let's just take up one more minute. How do you see 2024 differing from 2023?
Well, I think our staff continues to strengthen and evolve. I mean, I was, everyone but me was hired in 2022. So for a lot of our folks, I think they'll just continue to mature into their role, which I think will continue to have profound impact. Mona is building this amazing community. I think, Mona, your first Bonding Families meeting was only in the middle of the year. So I think we'll continue to hear what Bonding Families is doing, the community of women who are impacted healing in space together, continue to highlight. I'm hoping back to stories like that we've been doing this work, and now I'm hoping 2024 the year we can communicate out what we've been doing, what we've been learning, what can be applied in the community. And we also have some legislative priorities, like Mona mentioned, with SNAP benefit repeal at the state level, with removing the driver's license suspension for failure to pay fines and fees. And so we're hoping to just continue to grow a community of formerly incarcerated folks across the state, and also break down those barriers that are affected. And then on our social enterprise, we're hoping to cross into 6 figures next year. And we're really excited about that. That will be a fun milestone to hit.
Absolutely. And you can help more women with bigger programs. Yes, the impact will be greater, even greater. I'm so excited. And I'm serious about coming to the farm. There's a farm theme going on here in my life. I've been to the pharmacy with Dan DeTillis in Chapel Hill last year, and also Seven Springs Farm and Vineyard just in November. For some reason, you're the third farm I've spoken with. I don't know. Maybe there's something being said there. I don't know what it is yet, but hey, I want to come. I'm definitely going to come and see you guys and leave with nice smelling candle. So, and some body care products. I want to just see if you want to share anything else besides the link that I've put up here. Did I spell that right? Benevolence. Yeah. Benevolence Farm. What else can I share in our last 30 seconds? Is there a message that you want to give supporters, that you want to give recipients of your support? Anything that we need to leave with today?
Nona, do you have anything?
I just wanted to say, support and reentry programs are huge. It does so much, not only for the community, but also the individuals that's been impacted by the stigma or whatever issues that they're experiencing. And then also, I just wanted to say, when I was telling you guys about the in-person support group meetings, Bonding Families, we have meetings every Thursday, the second Thursday of every month, once a month. Our next meeting will be December the 14th. You can follow the Facebook page at Mona Evans, and then also on the Benevolence Farm website for any updates on our Bonding Families program, and also the housing fund.
Okay.
Oh, and buy gifts, y'all. If y'all still looking for last minute Christmas gifts, we have wonderful holiday candles that smell great. So please tap into that, www.benevolencefarm.org.
Yes. Okay, cool beans. I think I'm satisfied. Are you guys satisfied?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to post this on several social media channels. It'll be on Facebook at Friendpreneurship LLC, but also I will probably post a reel or two on Instagram and on Facebook so that those who missed this jewel of a program can get a replay. And again, this information will be available to our membership as we launch membership in 2024. Speaking of which, Friendpreneur FAM is going to launch as a paid membership platform to benefit the Friendpreneurship community. I think I mentioned at the top of the program, we have events regularly. We're going to be incorporating some new things. I'm excited about that. So those who've been following Friendpreneurship over the past 7 months, and even before that, when we were a different company that was evolving into Friendpreneurship, think about following and supporting by a paid membership, because we can do so much for the entrepreneurial community when it comes to learning from each other. The more we meet, the more we talk, the more we share our stories, the better the community will be. So look for announcements about that in 2024 or toward the end of this month for the beginning of the year. All right, I think I'm good to go. I thank you so much. You guys enjoy your farm. I'm jealous. You get to wake up to the flowers and the chickens and take your time and sip mimosas on Fridays and enjoy your family and all that good stuff. Enjoy it. You know, life is short, and I think we just need to really focus on those little things and continue building these meaningful connections. I will see you soon. I promise you that. God willing, and the creek don't rise. I'll be able to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.